evening, New Zealand, leading your news hour, bubbling over with joy. The Black Caps conquer cricket's oldest foe on English turf.
But here there are tears and sadness as a Silver Fern is farewelled.
A new report paints a grim picture of the health of thousands of children in one of our poorest areas.
And an historic timepiece is set to make good time in the new millennium.
A rare moment for New Zealand cricket, a series victory in England prompting unrestrained joy.
It was the farewell present the New Zealand cricket coach had always hoped for.
A series victory over England bringing down the curtain on Steve Rixon's three-year reign. It's ended with the Australian as our most successful coach and his team on the threshold of something special. In recent years, cricket's been maligned, a game dogged by more controversies and sackings than successful results. Tonight, optimism's returning. Today's victory was only the third series win against the old country and just the second on English soil. Steve Marshall reports from the Oval on a notable day for New Zealand cricket.
As Roger Toos waited to take the series-winning catch, Steve Rixon watched on from the boundary. The Kiwis giving the coach the perfect send-off with the first Test Series win here in 13 years.
Something you live a lot of years for, and it's happened. And having played a lot of cricket, it's up there with the highlights of my life.
He's helped all of us out immensely, and the best way we could show him how well he's helped us was to win the series, and we've done that.
As they made their way up the pavilion steps, the squad was cheered on by an army of Kiwi supporters. But the biggest roar was saved for New Zealand's player of the series.
It's been a series of team unity and performances from every member, so it was a great all-round performance.
To lose that first game at Edgbaston and then to come back and win the way we did, I mean, it just speaks volumes.
Cairns and Adam Perori displaying the special team spirit that's developed in this New Zealand side that was the key to winning this seesaw battle.
They don't have a Hadley, they don't have a Crow, but they have a hell of a lot of guts and a lot of team spirit, and in the end those qualities won through. And
It's just emotionally charged. It's been a great test, and it's a great campaign. What a way to finish.
So Steve Rixon leaves the Kiwis in good stead, but first of all he has a party to attend. Steve Marshall, One Network News, The Oval, London.
And of course there'll be much more on the Black Caps series victory later in sport.
But while cricket's on a high tonight, netball is remembering one of its leading lights. Today, the funeral for former Silver Fern Leilani Reid was held at Old St Paul's Cathedral in Wellington. And there were so many mourners, the service had to be relayed through speakers to those standing outside. Joanne Black was there.
Friends, family and netballers farewelling a star goal shooter. Leilani Reid's coffin draped with mementos of her life, a photo, a Bible and her netball uniform.
At 25, you've achieved what it takes most of us, 10. You have lived your life to the max.
Her mother revealing that Leilani had been intricately planning her wedding.
She wrote a letter to Bernice, asking Bernice, please be one of my bridesmaids, because it's very hard to find another one to fill up the number of bridesmaids I was going to have. Do you want to know how many?
With much of the wedding apparently planned, Leilani Reid commented to her daughter that it was usual to also have a groom. But she said Leilani replied, "Don't worry, I'll find a man." But it was to her funeral rather than her wedding that hundreds came. One of them, friend and opera singer Ben McKeithy. And her grandfather spontaneously stood to lead a Samoan hymn. Joanne Black, One Network News.
And Leilani Reid's legacy will also be remembered at the World Champs next month, where she was due to play for Samoa.
A claim tonight that the health of children in South Auckland has reached a critical level of unacceptability. It's come from the county's Manukau Health Council, which says little has improved since a similar report 5 years ago. Today's card says the area has a high rate of infectious diseases, including 4 times the national rate of measles. It says more than a third of all 2-year-olds aren't fully immunised. A high rate of Maori and Pacific Island children have hearing and sight problems. Just a third of all preschoolers are enrolled with the dental service. And the same number have iron deficiency. The reports prompted Labour to accuse the government of not doing enough to help the people of South Auckland. The Prime Minister, though, wants help to deal with the problems.
Since 1994, we have made a huge step forward to see that families, particularly with young children, have access to all of those services free. And there just is no explanation to me as to why we haven't overcome this problem. Every New Zealander needs to help me overcome this issue. The money's there.
Manukau City has far less doctors per head of population than any other part of Auckland. It is a poor area. It's an area with poor housing. It's an area where there is high need, and they are underserviced, underfunded and under-coordinated. We really need to have a South Auckland strategy, and it's been needed for a long time.
Despite the gloomy reports, South Auckland health workers say the news isn't all bad. They say new initiatives have been put in place to raise the standard of health for the region's 90,000 children. Health reporter Laurelie Mason has more.
South Auckland paediatric nurse Mikkel Noonan out on the beat. Her job to make daily checks on children like 4-month-old Shah Matofeo for the first 3 days after leaving hospital following illness or injury.
He was vomiting last night, and he couldn't eat.
No. The aim, to ensure the child is continuing to thrive and sees the family GP for follow-up care.
At the end of the day, you're quite exhausted, but I do feel for some families that you've probably been able to get in, give some advice so that they may be able to keep their children out of hospital for longer.
Has he had immunisations?
What does that mean?
Has he had the injections into his leg at the doctor?
No.
No.
Doctors say the biggest challenge is ensuring when children leave these wards there's follow-up. They say 40% of South Auckland children have no GP, so the initiatives are being targeted at identifying those children who are at risk and offering them and their parents support and education. The Health Funding Authority has recently set aside $1 million for well child health checks for South Auckland children. The area will also benefit from the government's $13.5 million child health strategy money. Construction of the new, bigger children's hospital, Kids First, will begin in October. And the Tainui tribe has recently signed a deal with South Auckland Health to help improve services for Maori. The Tainui commitment currently includes 6 GPs and an accident and emergency centre.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and it helps our people out a lot.
There's a lot we can do in health services about coordinating, integrating our care, and actually improving access by breaking down some of the barriers.
A feat all agree can happen with will, hard work and money. Laurelie Mason, One Network News.
It's week 11 in the Sounds murder trial, and an ex-girlfriend of Scott Watson's has been in the witness box today. The woman says she asked Watson if he killed Blenheim friends Ben Smart and Olivia Hope. Emma Hart continues our extended in-court camera coverage.
2 months after Scott Watson's sloop was seized, police took Watson's ex-girlfriend back on board. Today, with her identity suppressed, she was asked about the forward hatch under which they slept.
The hatch cover had lots of scratch marks on it.
She said prior to Christmas the hatch was smooth, so smooth she liked to run her hand across it.
She told the court she met Watson in July 1997 and they went out until November that same year, until his behaviour at a party caused her to call it off. However, the two remained in contact and she remembered a conversation they had about the hatch cover in 1998.
Out of the blue, he brought up the subject of the hatch and the scratch marks on it, and that his nieces had made the scratch marks.
Tonight on assignment. We are frustrated.
She told the court after seeing the assignment program on the missing friends, she asked Watson if he'd seen it.
Tell us what his comments were.
He didn't think much of Olivia Hope's father, and he made the comment that Olivia hated him and couldn't wait to get away from him. And I asked him how he knew that, and he said that her friends had told him that.
She told the court how by April she had many questions she wanted answers for and phoned him.
I fairly much asked him if he had done it.
Thank you. And what was his response to that question?
Well, he was agitated, and he said to me that I shouldn't have to ask him that question. He then went on to say that no, he didn't do it.
In cross-examination, Bruce Davidson questioned whether police had supplied questions for her to ask Watson.
Did the police ask you to ask Scott a series of questions of Scott on the phone?
I was faxed some questions.
The defence also challenged her interpretation of Watson's response to the assignment program.
So your interpretation of the conversation was that Scott was relaying to you that he had spoken to her friends personally?
Yes.
And it couldn't be, are you saying that he was simply relaying something that may have been in the public domain? Just comments that rumour and gossip may have been going around?
I don't know.
The witness was visibly upset when Bruce Davidson informed her that the police had taped a conversation with her while she was examining Watson's yacht with police officers. She said she had no idea the recordings were being made and demanded to hear them. Emma Hart, One Network News.
The Crown hopes to wrap up its case this week.
The Australian outback has revealed a remarkable story of survival today. An American adventurer lost in the Great Sandy Desert for a month has been found. Robert Bulgocky was found by the pilot of a search helicopter just before the hunt was abandoned. Bulgocky had set out on a marathon trek trying to test his survival skills against the desert. But after his bike and camping equipment were found 4 weeks ago, a search began. His parents flew out a specialist search team from the United States when the locals gave up the hunt. When he was finally rescued today, Mr. Bulgocky said he'd had enough of walking around the desert.
Coming up on One Network News, thousands of Americans flee their homes as hurricane takes on Texas.
Rescuers in quake-torn Turkey unearth more miracles, but they may stop searching soon.
Pandering to mum, a rare bear enters the world.
And taking the plunge, Kiwi daredevils prove age is no barrier.
It's a bit of a thrill, that's what it is.
The legends are here.
Here's the great Colin Meads being sent off.
I'd let New Zealand down. In a series that examines our game.
Probably in reflection, Andy wouldn't do it again.
I would do it again. The tries, the teams, the truth.
I'll tell you a thing now that was never told before.
Brought to you in association with Ford and Air New Zealand.
In the corner was Christian Cullen with tears in his eyes.
Legends of the All Blacks, 8:30 tonight on TV1.
Do you know where this party is? Good drinks, Mr. and Mrs. Brown?
Call AMI for a quote right now on 0800 100 200.
Let your true colors shine through. Show your true colors. That's why we love you so. Love and right. Them show true colors. True colors. They're wonderful.
Well, second-hand vehicles come to us first, then we basically have them assessed. Once the odometers have been checked, we see whatever else needs to be done. Panel, paint, mechanical, whatever. Now, personally, I don't think you could find a better assessment done anywhere else. But I suppose I would say that, wouldn't I?
We reckon you'd have to go a long way to find blokes that know more about engines than us. I know what you're thinking. Of course I'm going to say that. Right?
You know, you won't get better than this. Mind you, I'm bound to say that.
as you can see, this is a paint shop, and you'll not find a used car with a better finish than this.
But he would say that, wouldn't he?
Better finish than this? I don't think so. But I suppose I would say that.
I think the quality of Toyota Signature Class cars is tops, and I can say what I like.
Toyota Signature Class used vehicles. You have our word on it.
Of all the lessons history has taught us, none is more sobering than the demise of an entire species. As the new millennium dawns, we find ourselves standing on the edge of a precipice, which, if we continue to ignore the warning signs, will surely prove our undoing. It's a simple, easily grasped concept, yet it remains the fundamental cornerstone of continued human existence on this planet. The message? Anything which does not adapt will not survive.
Challenge the old, champion the new, change your fate.
Well, tonight on Homes at 7 o'clock, breastfeeding. Is it rude to breastfeed in public? Now, English etiquette experts have said it's revolting and embarrassing. What do you think? 0900 20 300 for yes, or 0900 20 400 for no. It is not rude. Calls cost $1. Ask the bill payer in the house first. Mistaken identity means a man loses his land for 37 years. He wants it back. That's also tonight on Homes at 7 o'clock.
Rescuers in Turkey are tonight being told to scale down their efforts as hopes fade of finding many more survivors of last week's devastating earthquake. The death toll now stands at more than 12,000, with 200,000 people homeless. But survivors are still being pulled from the debris in the city of Adapazarı in northern Turkey. One woman was found after being buried alive for 130 hours. BBC's Carolyn Wyatt reports.
Incredibly, after almost 6 days without food or water, another survivor is pulled from the wreckage. There was jubilation as Maliha Sasan was brought out. This is what spurs the rescue workers on. Just hours before, another miracle. This woman too emerged alive. It was thanks to her son's persistence she was found at all. She's mute, but her son heard her humming from under the wreckage and insisted the rescue workers return after their operation was called off. Some foreign rescue teams say the Turkish government is telling them to pack up and go home, that there's no longer any point in sifting through the wreckage for survivors. But senior Turkish officials say that's not true.
The search goes on. We've found 2 people alive under the rubble today, and that is still our priority. Until there's no hope of finding more survivors, we want the rescue work to continue. And I would never tell these foreign teams to leave. We're very grateful for their help.
Help for the living is on its way. Israeli helicopters bring much-needed medical equipment and supplies for their field hospital in Adapazarı. Sahila Toklu is 4 years old and utterly bewildered by the last few days. She was trapped under rubble for several hours. Now, doctors say what look like surface wounds could hide a dangerous fracture. She may need urgent surgery. Next to her, one of 6 babies born here since the earthquake. His mother is exhausted, but relieved they're both alive.
And later in Close-Up, we find out how ready New Zealand is for a major earthquake.
A hurricane's been whipping up panic in Texas. Hurricane Brett's hit the state's southern coast, packing a big punch. The Category 4 hurricane made landfall this afternoon between Brownsville and Corpus Christi. It pounded the region with sheeting rain and winds of more than 200 kilometres an hour. Thousands of people have fled their homes, and residents who are staying have been busy boarding up their homes and stockpiling supplies. The storm's now running out of puff as it heads inland, but officials fear Brett could still spawn tornadoes.
And another big storm has battered Southeast Asia, causing death and injury. Typhoon Sam swept through Hong Kong, uprooting trees and sending debris flying. About 100 people were hurt, but the authorities say most of those injuries were minor.
And while the storm raged in, a China Airlines Boeing crashed in flames and flipped as it landed at Hong Kong's new international airport. 2 people were killed and more than 200 hurt. This report from CNN's Mike Chinoy.
China Airlines Flight 642 crashed in the midst of a typhoon. The MD-11 of Taiwan's airline, with 315 people on board, was on a flight from Bangkok. Passengers and eyewitnesses said it lurched sharply as it landed. One wing hit the ground. The plane flipped over and burst into flames. Hong Kong Emergency Services were on the scene almost immediately.
Within 1 minute, the first fire engine arrived on scene, and within 15 minutes, the fire on the aircraft was completely put out.
Even with the aircraft on its back, the passengers were evacuated with surprising speed. The over 200 injured, some of them suffering from severe burns, were taken to nearby hospitals. Before the crash, numerous flights had been canceled, delayed, or diverted, but the airport remained open. Officials refused to speculate on the role the weather might have played in the accident, saying only that the decision to operate in such conditions was up to each airline. But immediately after the crash, the airport, a new multi-billion-dollar facility that opened just over a year ago, was shut down, stranding thousands of travelers.
Airline officials say they will fully cooperate with investigators to find out if the weather, the aircraft, the pilot, or a combination of all those things caused the crash.
To a happier event now, and the first giant panda birth in the United States in a decade. The cub was born at San Diego Zoo and is thought to be just the second conceived outside China using artificial insemination. Zookeepers say the baby seems to be healthy, but Mum, Bayon, isn't letting anyone close enough yet to tell if the baby's a boy or a girl.
Just ahead, the stand against head lice in Dunedin.
And time for a change, an old clock gets a millennium makeover.
Later in sport, on the stroke of time, Torpedo hits his world record target.
And it's Hot Scott, a Kiwi teen back in the fast lane.
First win in Dayton Indy Lights competition.